In the burning waters of the Persian Gulf, a deadly trap has been sprung. Iran has deployed one of the most sophisticated ambushes in modern warfare, designed to wipe out nearly 5,000 American troops as they attempt to storm the strategic island of Kharg. What was supposed to be a swift, decisive strike by the world's greatest superpower has instead become a catastrophic miscalculation. Donald Trump's reckless gamble is collapsing in real time, and the shockwaves are already dragging America's closest ally, Israel, straight down into the abyss. Picture this: thousands of U.S. Marines and paratroopers, backed by the might of aircraft carriers and amphibious assault ships, closing in on Kharg Island, Iran's crown jewel, the tiny coral outpost that handles nearly 90% of the Islamic Republic's vital oil exports. Trump believed seizing this island would choke Iran's economy, force Tehran to its knees, and reopen the Strait of Hormuz on America's terms. He called it a simple option. He said it would be easy, but Iran was waiting. Hidden missile batteries, swarms of suicide drones, fast attack boats operating like wolf packs, and underground tunnel networks turned this small island into a killing zone. As American forces approached by sea and air, the trap snapped shut. Low-altitude anti-air systems tore into transport helicopters. Anti-ship missiles rained down on landing craft. Electronic warfare jammed GPS and communications, leaving elite Marines disoriented and exposed under relentless fire. This is no longer a theoretical threat. This is the brutal reality unfolding right now in the Gulf. What Trump sold as a masterstroke of power projection is rapidly turning into one of the costliest military blunders in recent American history, and the consequences reach far beyond Kharg. While U.S. forces are bogged down in this lethal trap, Israel finds itself increasingly isolated and vulnerable. Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iranian-backed militias are intensifying their attacks, overwhelming Israel's defenses as American attention and resources are sucked into the quagmire at Kharg. The Iron Dome is being pushed to its limit, and the once unbreakable alliance is showing dangerous cracks. How did the United States, with all its technological superiority, walk straight into Iran's carefully prepared killing field? Why did Trump's high-stakes gamble fail so spectacularly? And how deep will Israel be pulled down as America struggles to extract itself from this disaster? In the next 40 minutes, we will dissect every layer of this unfolding catastrophe: the deadly trap Iran deployed, the fatal miscalculations in the White House, the terrifying scenes on the beaches and skies of Kharg, and the dangerous domino effect now threatening to engulf the entire region. The era of unchallenged American dominance in the Middle East is being tested like never before. And today, on Kharg Island, that dominance is bleeding. Stay with us. The truth behind this historic turning point is far more shocking than you think. If you want to uncover the wider meaning behind these critical events, make sure to subscribe to Wider Meaning right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our in-depth reports. Tonight, we expose the full scale of the disaster unfolding in the Persian Gulf. How did Iran successfully deploy a multi-layered trap capable of wiping out 5,000 American troops attempting to seize Kharg Island? Why did Donald Trump's high-risk gamble betting everything on a lightning strike to choke Iran's oil lifeline collapse so catastrophically within days? And most critically, as American forces bleed in the killing fields of Kharg, how deeply is Israel being dragged down into the abyss, with its Iron Dome overwhelmed and its northern and southern borders under ferocious assault? In this special report, we break down the terrifying moment the trap was sprung from swarms of suicide drones and Wolfpack speedboats to underground missile batteries that turned Kharg into a graveyard for U.S. Marines. Trump's fatal miscalculations, the overconfidence, the ignored warnings, and the reckless decision that has now put thousands of American lives at risk. The devastating domino effect, how America's entanglement at Kharg has left Israel exposed, isolated, and facing the most serious threat to its existence in decades. And finally, what this stunning reversal means for the future of American power in the Middle East. This is not just another military setback. This is a historic turning point, where one carefully laid trap has shattered a superpower's illusion of invincibility and is pulling its closest ally toward the edge of collapse. The implications are enormous. Stay tuned. We're going straight into the heart of the storm. As American forces moved into position, the trap was already set. In the early hours of the operation, nearly 5,000 U.S. troops, primarily Marines from 2 expeditionary units supported by elements of the 82nd Airborne Division, began their assault on Kharg Island. Amphibious ships and landing craft approached from the Persian Gulf, while transport helicopters and Osprey tilt rotors lifted off from distant carriers to secure key landing zones. Donald Trump had publicly declared that seizing Kharg would be straightforward. "We could take it very easily," he said, claiming Iranian defenses were minimal. The island, a small coral outpost handling nearly 90% of Iran's crude oil exports, was seen as the perfect target to choke Tehran's economy and force a quick surrender. But Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps had spent years preparing for exactly this scenario. The moment U.S. forces entered the kill zone, the trap sprang shut with terrifying precision. Hidden coastal missile batteries opened fire first. Anti-ship missiles streaked across the water, targeting slow-moving landing craft and amphibious vehicles. Several vessels were struck before they could even reach the beaches, sending plumes of black smoke into the sky. At the same time, swarms of low-flying suicide drones and fast-attack speedboats operating in coordinated wolf packs descended on the American formation. These small, agile boats, armed with anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, darted between larger ships, creating chaos that overwhelmed shipboard defense systems. U.S. Aegis destroyers struggled to track and engage hundreds of small, fast-moving threats simultaneously. In the air, the situation turned even deadlier as CH-53K King Stallion helicopters and V-22 Ospreys attempted to insert troops inland. Iranian short-range air defense systems hidden in hardened positions opened up. Man-portable missiles and optically guided anti-aircraft guns tore into the formation. Multiple helicopters were seen spiraling into the sea in flames, their wreckage marking the failure of the airborne assault. On the ground, the nightmare continued. The first Marines who made it ashore found themselves in a meticulously prepared killing field. Every meter of the island's coastline had been pre-sighted for mortars and artillery. Underground tunnel networks allowed Iranian fighters to appear, strike, and disappear without warning. Improvised explosive devices and naval mines laid in shallow waters added to the carnage. Compounding the disaster was Iran's sophisticated electronic warfare campaign. GPS signals were heavily jammed across the entire area, while communications between ground units and command ships were disrupted. Elite U.S. Marines, trained for rapid dominance, suddenly found themselves fighting blind, unable to call in precise air support or coordinate movements effectively. What Trump had envisioned as a swift lightning strike quickly devolved into a bloody stalemate. Reports from the battlefield describe heavy casualties among the first wave of attackers. Burning landing craft littered the approaches to Kharg, while surviving troops were pinned down under continuous fire from concealed positions. This was not a random defense. This was a multi-layered trap that Iran had deliberately designed, combining coastal missiles, drone swarms, speedboat tactics, underground fortifications, and electronic jamming into one integrated ambush. The operation that was supposed to deliver a decisive blow to Iran has instead become a quagmire. Thousands of American troops are now caught in a deadly kill zone that Tehran prepared long in advance. And as the fighting intensifies on Kharg Island, the strategic cost is rising by the hour, not just in blood and treasure, but in the dangerous ripple effects now spreading across the region. While the world watched American warships steam toward Kharg Island, few understood that Iran had transformed this small oil hub into one of the most sophisticated kill zones in modern military history. The trap that nearly 5,000 U.S. troops walked into was not built in days or weeks. It was the result of years of careful, self-reliant engineering under heavy sanction. At the heart of Iran's layered defense system stands the Bavar 373. Tehran's indigenous long-range surface-to-air missile system, often compared to Russia's S-300, but entirely designed and produced in Iran. The Bavar 373 uses the powerful Mirage 4 phased array radar and Sayad 4 missiles capable of engaging targets up to 300 kilometers away. During the assault on Kharg, this system provided the high-altitude umbrella, forcing American aircraft to operate at lower, more vulnerable altitudes where shorter-range weapons could finish the job. Complementing the Bavar 373 is the highly mobile Khordad 1-5. Unveiled years ago as a direct counter to American and Israeli air power, this medium-range system can detect stealthy targets, track them at 120 kilometers, and engage with Sayad 3 missiles reaching 200 kilometers. Its greatest strength lies in rapid relocation. Crews can pack up and move within minutes, making it almost impossible for U.S. strike aircraft to destroy on the ground. On Kharg and the nearby mainland, batteries of Khordad 1-5 created overlapping kill zones that shredded low-flying CH-53K helicopters and V-22 Ospreys attempting to insert troops. But Iran's real innovation lies in its asymmetric arsenal weapons that turn America's technological superiority into a costly liability. First, the Shahed family drones. These low-cost, loitering munitions and suicide drones, including the Shahed 136 and faster jet-powered variants, were deployed in massive saturation waves. A single Shahed cost tens of thousands of dollars. The American interceptor sent to destroy it often costs millions. During the Kharg operation, swarms of these drones flew low over the water, evading radar by hugging the waves before slamming into landing craft and escort ships. Their sheer numbers overwhelmed shipboard defense systems designed for fewer, higher-value threats. Supporting the drone swarms are Iran's Fateh 110 family of short-range ballistic missiles. Solid-fueled, highly mobile, and accurate to within meters, these missiles can be launched from hidden underground positions, strike targets up to 300 kilometers away, and then disappear back into mountain tunnels before satellite reconnaissance can locate them. On Kharg, Fateh 110 variants rain down on beachheads and assembly areas, turning every successful American landing into an immediate firestorm. Then came the naval component, the infamous Wolfpack tactics of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. Hundreds of small, high-speed attack boats, many equipped with anti-ship missiles and torpedoes, operated in coordinated groups. These vessels are cheap, fast, and difficult to track. When dozens or hundreds attack simultaneously from multiple directions, even the advanced Aegis combat system on U.S. destroyers struggles to prioritize and engage every threat. Several landing craft and support vessels were reported hit by these swarms before they could unload their marines. Underground fortifications and electronic warfare completed the trap. Iran has spent decades building extensive tunnel networks beneath Kharg and the coastal regions. These cities of missiles allow launchers to fire and immediately relocate deep underground, protected from precision airstrikes. Meanwhile, Iranian electronic warfare units unleashed powerful jamming and spoofing operations. GPS signals across the entire battle area were heavily degraded, while tactical communications between U.S. ground forces and command ships suffered severe disruption. Elite Marines trained to rely on real-time data and precision fire support suddenly found themselves fighting with limited situational awareness. What makes Iran's approach truly remarkable is its philosophy of self-reliance. Under decades of sanctions, Tehran could not import the latest Western or Russian systems in unlimited quantities. Instead, it invested in asymmetric, cost-effective solutions that exploit the weaknesses of a high-tech opponent. A $1 million Tomahawk or multi-million-dollar air defense missile can be countered by a few $1,000 drone or a mobile short-range rocket. This economic asymmetry turns every exchange into a strategic victory for Iran. The integration of these systems created a true multi-domain trap. Long-range air defense to control the skies, mobile medium-range systems to punish low-altitude incursions, ballistic missiles to hammer fixed positions, drone and boat swarms to overwhelm naval forces, and electronic warfare to blind the enemy's most advanced sensors. This is why the operation that Trump described as very easy quickly became a nightmare. The 5,000 American troops did not face a conventional army in open battle. They walked into a carefully engineered ecosystem of weapons, designed specifically to negate American strengths in air power, precision munitions, and network-centric warfare. The trap at Kharg Island is not merely a collection of hardware. It is the physical manifestation of Iran's military doctrine, layered, resilient, mobile, and built around the principle that technology must serve human will, and strategic patience, not replace it. As the smoke continues to rise over the Persian Gulf, one fact has become brutally clear. Iran's indigenous weapons and tactics have succeeded in turning a supposed lightning strike into a grinding, expensive, and politically dangerous engagement for the United States. And the true cost of this technological mismatch is only beginning to reveal itself. As the first waves of American Marines struggled to establish a foothold on Kharg Island, the scale of Donald Trump's strategic miscalculation became painfully clear. What he had sold to the American public and his political base as a bold, decisive masterstroke was rapidly unraveling into one of the most dangerous gambles of his second term. Trump's plan was simple on paper: seize control of Kharg Island, Iran's primary oil export terminal, cripple Tehran's economy within weeks, and force the Islamic Republic to negotiate from a position of total weakness. He believed American technological superiority and overwhelming firepower would deliver victory in days, not months. In public statements, he repeatedly downplayed the risks, calling the operation very easy and claiming Iranian defenses were outdated and fragile. This overconfidence proved fatal. Senior military commanders and intelligence officials had warned the White House for months that any attempt to land large numbers of troops on Kharg would face ferocious resistance. The island was not a soft target. It was a heavily fortified outpost defended by the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, supported by layered missile systems, underground facilities, and swarms of low-cost asymmetric weapons. Yet Trump, driven by his long-standing desire to project strength and deliver a quick foreign policy win, chose to ignore or override many of these cautions. The gamble began with the forward deployment of 2 carrier strike groups into the Persian Gulf. Trump ordered them to move closer to the Iranian coastline than any American carriers had ventured in recent memory, believing their presence would intimidate Tehran and provide overwhelming air and naval support for the Marines. Instead, the carriers became massive, expensive targets. Iranian anti-ship ballistic and cruise missiles, combined with drone swarms, forced the American flotilla to pull back repeatedly, limiting the effectiveness of close air support and naval gunfire. On the ground, the consequences were even more severe. The decision to commit nearly 5,000 troops in the initial assault waves exposed American forces to exactly the kind of attrition warfare Iran excels at. Every hour the Marines remained pinned down on the beaches or in the limited inland positions came at an enormous cost in lives, in destroyed equipment, and in political capital back in Washington. Trump's reckless gamble also revealed deep fractures within his own administration and the broader U.S. military establishment. Reports quickly emerged that several high-ranking generals had expressed serious reservations about the feasibility of a sustained amphibious operation against a prepared Iranian defender. Some allegedly recommended limited airstrikes and sanctions instead of a direct ground assault. Trump, however, pushed forward, reportedly telling advisors he needed a visible victory to strengthen his negotiating position and silence domestic critics. Now, that gamble is collapsing in full view of the world. The financial toll alone is staggering. Each lost helicopter, each damaged landing craft, each expended million-dollar interceptor missile against cheap Iranian drones adds billions to an already bloated defense budget. Pentagon sources quietly admit that the daily burn rate in the Gulf has exceeded initial projections by several multiples. With thousands of troops still engaged in heavy fighting, the operation that was meant to last days now threatens to stretch into weeks or longer. Politically, the damage is even greater. Trump, who campaigned on ending endless wars and avoiding new quagmires, now finds himself defending an increasingly unpopular and costly engagement. Images of burning American equipment and reports of mounting casualties are spreading rapidly across global media and social platforms. Domestically, opposition voices are growing louder, questioning why American lives are being risked to seize a remote Iranian oil island. The ripple effects extend far beyond the White House. America's Gulf allies Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, who once quietly supported pressure on Iran, are now visibly distancing themselves. Several have quietly restricted U.S. access to their bases or expressed concern about being drawn into a wider conflict. The carefully constructed coalition Trump hoped to maintain is fraying at the edges. Most dangerously, Trump's gamble has directly weakened America's ability to support its closest ally in the region. As U.S. naval and air assets are tied down protecting operations around Kharg, Israel finds itself facing intensified attacks from multiple fronts. Hezbollah in the north and Hamas-linked groups in the south have increased rocket and drone barrages, sensing that American attention and resources are stretched thin. Israeli officials have reportedly made urgent calls to Washington for additional support, only to receive responses that highlight the growing strain on U.S. forces. This is the cruel irony of Trump's decision. In trying to deliver a quick knockout blow against Iran, he has instead created a situation where America is bleeding resources and credibility, while its primary regional partner is left more vulnerable than before. The collapse of Trump's gamble is not merely a tactical setback on a small island in the Persian Gulf. It represents a fundamental failure of strategic judgment, an overestimation of American power, and an underestimation of Iranian resilience and preparation. As the fighting on Kharg continues, the question hanging over Washington grows more urgent with every passing hour. How does the United States extract itself from this self-inflicted trap without suffering even greater strategic and political damage? The answer, it seems, is becoming painfully elusive. Trump bet big on Kharg. So far, Iran is collecting on that bet, and the House is winning. As American forces remain locked in a bloody stalemate on Kharg Island, the true strategic cost of Donald Trump's gamble is no longer confined to the Persian Gulf. a dangerous domino effect has begun, and Israel, America's closest ally in the Middle East, is being pulled directly into the abyss. The chain reaction started the moment U.S. carrier strike groups and air assets became heavily committed to supporting the operation at Kharg. Resources that Israel had quietly relied upon for rapid reinforcement or deterrence were suddenly tied down hundreds of kilometers away. For the first time in many years, the American umbrella that had shielded Israel began to show dangerous holes. Hezbollah, sensing the shift, immediately escalated. In the north, the elite Radwan forces launched coordinated rocket and drone barrages far deeper into Israeli territory than in previous rounds. Hundreds of rockets rained down on Haifa, Galilee, and even areas near Tel Aviv within a single night. At the same time, Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Yemen increased their attacks, forcing Israel to defend on multiple fronts simultaneously. The pressure on Israel's air defense network quickly became critical. The much-celebrated Iron Dome, designed to intercept short-range rockets, was never built to handle sustained, high-volume saturation attacks from multiple directions. As Hezbollah fired thousands of rockets in coordinated waves, the system began to buckle. Missile interceptors were expended at an alarming rate, and several batteries were reported overwhelmed, allowing dozens of rockets to strike civilian areas and strategic infrastructure. Meanwhile, Hamas and other groups in Gaza and the West Bank intensified their operations, opening a southern front that stretched Israeli ground forces thin. Israeli commanders now face an impossible dilemma: commit more troops to the northern border against Hezbollah while still containing threats from Gaza, all while American support is distracted by the fighting at Kharg. The economic impact on Israel has been equally devastating. With tensions soaring, international shipping lines have begun avoiding Israeli ports. Ben Gurion Airport has seen a sharp drop in flights, and foreign investors are pulling back. The Israeli shekel has weakened significantly, and the cost of maintaining full mobilization is draining the national budget at a dangerous pace. For a country already struggling with internal divisions, this new external pressure is pushing society toward the brink. What makes the situation particularly painful for Israel is the growing realization that Washington's attention has shifted. Urgent requests for additional munitions, intelligence support, and even diplomatic cover have reportedly met with delayed or partial responses. American officials are increasingly preoccupied with damage control around Kharg and the mounting casualties among U.S. Marines. In private conversations, Israeli leaders have expressed deep frustration that their strongest ally is now too busy saving its own operation to protect its closest partner. This is the cruel reality of Trump's reckless gamble. In attempting to deliver a quick victory against Iran, the United States has instead created a strategic vacuum that its adversaries are eagerly exploiting. By committing significant naval and air power to the Kharg operation, America has unintentionally signaled to Iran's axis of resistance that the moment to strike Israel has arrived. The consequences are now unfolding in real time. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, who once counted on unwavering American backing, finds himself increasingly isolated. His tough rhetoric no longer matches the ground reality. Public confidence in Israel's security doctrine is eroding rapidly, as citizens watch rockets bypass defenses and hear reports of American forces struggling just a few hundred kilometers away. Even more alarming is the long-term strategic damage. For decades, Israel's security has rested on two pillars: its own military superiority and the unconditional support of the United States. Trump's gamble at Kharg is undermining both. American credibility as a reliable security guarantor is being questioned not only by Israel, but by Gulf states that once aligned with the anti-Iran camp. As the fighting on Kharg continues to consume American resources and political capital, Israel is being left to face a multi-front war with diminishing external support. The dominoes are falling exactly as Tehran hoped. First, America becomes bogged down. Then Israel is forced to fight alone under increasing pressure. Trump bet that a swift strike on Kharg would strengthen America's position and intimidate its enemies. Instead, it has achieved the opposite. It has exposed the limits of American power, stretched U.S. forces thin, and left Israel more vulnerable than at any time in recent memory. The gamble was supposed to deliver dominance. What it has delivered instead is a dangerous chain reaction that now threatens to drag both Washington and Tel Aviv into a deeper and far more costly regional crisis. The question Israeli leaders must now confront is painfully clear. How long can Israel survive when its most powerful protector is itself trapped in Iran's deadly ambush at Kharg Island? Beyond missiles, drones, and electronic warfare lies the most decisive element in the battle for Kharg Island: the unbreakable human will of the Iranian fighters. While Donald Trump placed his faith in superior technology, overwhelming firepower, and precision-guided munitions, Iran has built its defense around something far more powerful: the iron will and deep conviction of its soldiers. This is the true reason why nearly 5,000 American troops have been trapped in a nightmare that was supposed to end in days. The fighters defending Kharg Island are not ordinary conscripts. Many belong to the elite Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, the Warriors of 34, as they are often called in Iranian media. These men have been forged through years of sanctions, constant threats, and a national narrative of resistance against foreign domination. For them, this is not merely a territorial battle. It is a sacred duty to defend the homeland against what they see as naked imperialism. When the first American landing craft approached the shores, they did not face frightened defenders ready to surrender. They faced men who had trained for exactly this moment for years. Hidden in underground tunnels and fortified positions, IRGC fighters waited patiently. They knew the American plan relied on speed and technology. Their strategy was the opposite: absorb the initial shock, bleed the enemy slowly, and turn every inch of Kharg into a costly graveyard. This spirit of resistance runs deep in Iranian military doctrine, unlike the U.S. military, which emphasizes network-centric warfare and minimal casualties through technology. Iran has embraced human wave resilience combined with modern asymmetric tools. Their fighters are willing to operate under heavy bombardment, move through pre-planned tunnel networks, and launch counterattacks even when communications are jammed. When GPS fails and night vision equipment is disrupted, American soldiers become disoriented. Iranian defenders, who have trained to fight without relying on high-tech systems, simply adapt using basic maps, preset coordinates, and raw determination. One of the most striking aspects of Iran's defense is the fusion of faith and military professionalism. Many IRGC fighters view the battle not just as a military operation, but as a continuation of Iran's long history of resisting invaders from ancient times through the Iran-Iraq War to today. This deep sense of historical purpose creates a level of morale and cohesion that no algorithm or artificial intelligence can replicate. While American troops are fighting for policy objectives and rotation schedules, many Iranian defenders see themselves as guardians of national sovereignty and Islamic dignity. Trump's gamble underestimated this human dimension completely. His planners assumed that once the initial air and naval bombardment began, Iranian resistance would crumble. They believed modern technology would shock and awe the enemy into submission. Instead, the opposite happened. Every American loss, every burning helicopter, and every pinned-down Marine unit only strengthened the resolve of the defenders. Rather than breaking, Iranian morale has hardened. This psychological edge has translated into tactical superiority on the ground. Iranian fighters use terrain they know intimately. Every oil storage tank, every rocky outcrop, every underground passage has been turned into a defensive strongpoint. They employ classic guerrilla tactics: hit hard, disappear, reappear from another direction. When U.S. Marines attempt to advance, they often walk into carefully prepared ambushes supported by pre-sighted mortars and anti-tank teams. Even more telling is the economic and human cost asymmetry. For Iran, losing expensive equipment is painful, but acceptable if it inflicts disproportionate damage on the far more expensive American arsenal. A cheap drone that destroys a multi-million-dollar helicopter is considered a strategic victory. An IRGC fighter who sacrifices himself to destroy a landing craft is celebrated as a martyr. This willingness to accept losses in pursuit of a larger goal stands in sharp contrast to America's post-Vietnam sensitivity to casualties, which makes every fallen Marine a major political liability for Trump. The battle for Kharg has also exposed the limits of over-reliance on technology. When Iranian electronic warfare jammed GPS signals and disrupted command networks, elite U.S. units trained to fight with perfect real-time data suddenly lost their greatest advantage. In contrast, Iranian forces had prepared for exactly this scenario. Their training emphasized fighting in degraded environments, using simple but effective methods that do not depend on satellites or constant headquarters approval. This is the fundamental mismatch Trump failed to understand. He bet on machines, stealth aircraft, smart bombs, networked command systems. Iran bet on men who believe in their cause, know the terrain, and are willing to endure hardship far longer than their opponents. As the days pass and American forces remain bogged down, this human factor grows even more significant. Fatigue sets in for the attackers. Supplies become harder to deliver under constant harassment. Morale among the Marines begins to suffer, as they realize they are not fighting a quick campaign, but a grinding war of attrition against a determined enemy who views every day of resistance as a victory. The defenders of Kharg are not fighting for oil statistics or geopolitical maps. They are fighting for their homeland, their dignity, and their belief that no foreign power has the right to dictate their future. That conviction has turned a small island in the Persian Gulf into a symbol of resistance that is now shaking the foundations of American strategy in the region. Trump's technological gamble was supposed to demonstrate the superiority of American power. Instead, it has revealed a deeper truth. In the brutal mathematics of war, unbreakable human will often outweigh silicon chips and billion-dollar weapon system. The trap at Kharg was not built only with concrete and steel. It was built with the blood, training, and unyielding spirit of thousands of Iranian fighters who refused to yield. And as long as that spirit remains intact, no amount of American firepower may be enough to break it. As the smoke continues to rise over Kharg Island, one thing has become brutally clear. Donald Trump's reckless gamble has failed. Iran successfully deployed a deadly trap that has stopped nearly 5,000 American troops in their tracks. What was meant to be a swift show of force has turned into a costly quagmire. Trump's bold plan lies in ruins, and the consequences are now dragging Israel down with it. This is far more than a single military setback on a small island in the Persian Gulf. It marks a historic turning point. The illusion of unchallenged American dominance in the Middle East is crumbling before our eyes. A new reality is emerging, one where determination, careful preparation, and unbreakable will can successfully challenge even the world's most powerful military. The battle for Kharg has exposed the limits of technology when it faces human conviction. It has revealed the fragility of alliances built on convenience rather than shared sacrifice. And most importantly, it has shown that no empire, no matter how advanced its weapons, can indefinitely impose its will on a nation ready to defend its sovereignty at any cost. The coming days and weeks will be decisive. Will Washington double down on this failing gamble, or will it finally accept the high price of its miscalculation? How much further will Israel be pulled into this vortex? And what kind of new regional order will rise from the ashes of this conflict? We are witnessing history in the making, a moment when the old order is being challenged and a new balance of power begins to take shape. If you believe in understanding the wider meaning behind these critical events, then this channel is for you. Right now, if this analysis helped you see the truth behind the headlines, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand what is truly happening in the Middle East. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Wider Meaning and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our in-depth. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Trump will escalate further at Kharg? How long can Israel withstand this growing pressure? Thank you for watching until the end. Your support keeps honest analysis alive. This is Wider Meaning. We'll see you in the next report. Stay informed. Stay aware.